15.
I'd worked on a couple of German aircraft, fairly superficially, down at St Athan, including another one on Annie, the one that's at Hendon now. So I was always interested in that sort of work, and it was just a chance to get involved. I just didn't expect to get involved for quite so long on one project.
I became involved, I think it was about 1982. It appeared outside the servicing base at RAF Benson, and where I was working at the time, you know. And that was it. Russ came in and said, would you like to try servicing some of the components for it? And I said, fine. And that was it. Involvement.
Well, when I went in and saw Russ the first weekend, I said, how long do you think it'll be? And it was about 5 years. And about 5 years later, it was still about 5 years, to be perfectly honest, yes.
What kept us going? Well, I think it's got to be all down to Russ, really. You know, there was times when I thought, well, we're never going to overcome this obstacle, you know. But, you know, a little bit of chasing around, finding whatever we were short of, and the project just kept going. And
always had a love for aircraft, and then obviously to get involved with an aircraft of this type was just like, well, dream come true, really.
I became involved with the aircraft in 1982 when it came to Benson. The reason I got involved was because I didn't have that much work to do on the Andovers. I went and offered my sort of services to the 109, and from then, you know, from doing panels, I got more and more involved with the aircraft and its systems, and I've been with the aircraft ever since.
I became involved in 1989 at Benson when the aircraft was there under restoration. The aircraft was coming together with the engine initially fitted in the airframe and the wings and tail all on, still in primer, with the systems being finished off and set up for flight. And my involvement began at that time with the initial testing of the engine, which was quite a protracted affair.
There was a huge long period when all sorts of things went wrong and we just could not get the aircraft to start. The very first run, we'd sort of decided to abandon it. It was going to be put away, and Russ in fact was late home and he wanted to get away and really said, "We'll show it away, we'll try next week." And there was a sort of, let's have one more go. And so they cranked it up and lo and behold, burst into flames and away it went. And in fact, it must have been somewhat over-primed, because when it started it threw lots of very hot gas backwards, and Russ had a burnt ankle that hurt him for quite some time afterwards because he was stood on the wing at the time.
Well, the last one, remember when you played with the slow first of all, I mean, it's always in danger of dying, wasn't
Yeah.
it? That sounded quite
It's
nice.
very slow, but it seems to be quite, you know, happy. Automatics, perfect.
Good.
That's 2100,
Mag drop?
50 aside.
First flew the airplane in the summer of 1991 when we were doing the initial testing on the airplane for the issue of the permit to fly. I had flown the Charles Church Bouchon a fair bit before that, so I was used to Messerschmitts overall, and the thing that struck me was that it handled very similarly, but it was considerably quieter because with the inverted V engine, the exhausts are at the bottom, whereas with the Bouchon with the Merlin engine, the exhaust at the top, that was an extremely noisy airplane. So that was the biggest thing that hit me the first time I flew this. Flying this because it is such a genuine original aeroplane in terms of the cockpit, and so it gives you a very original flavour of what the airplane was like. It's also got some fairly tricky handling qualities, so it's a challenge to fly it, and I always like a challenge, so that to actually get in and fly it and to do a good display does give you a great sense of satisfaction. On takeoff and landing, then the directional stability is fairly low, so that it doesn't want to keep pointing straight down the runway, and once it starts to get away from you, then you've got to get on top of it very quickly to stop it ground looping. So from that point of view, it's a lot trickier than a lot of the other airplanes of this period. Once you're airborne, then the directional stability on the airplane is fairly low again, so you need to coordinate any manoeuvres with rudder to a far greater extent than a lot of the other fighters of the period. But the rudder forces are fairly low, it's fairly easy to apply, but just to fly the airplane well, then you've got to be very precise and put a lot of work into it. Again, the Bouchon used to hit a bit of a brick wall at higher speeds, whereas this is an aeroplane that's a lot sleeker, wants to go faster, and it will certainly dive to far greater speeds than the Bouchon, and you can hold sufficient speed for looping manoeuvres during the display far more easily. In terms of the speeds, then, for a display I use very similar speeds to a lot of the other similar powered fighters. The Spitfire, you can get away with flying manoeuvres a bit slower and a bit less height over the top of the loop. But it's within the sort of spectrum of speeds that you use for other fighters like this. Power settings, again, we use it at a maximum continuous power setting, so that we're always very mindful of trying to conserve engine life. Landing, as soon as you've actually touched down, then you've basically lost your control effectiveness, so that you've got to three-point it, because it's got a lockable tail wheel, so that the tail wheel will then help you to keep going straight. If you try to do a wheeler landing, then it's fraught with dangers.
Mainly I'm responsible for the engine by default really, but Roger Slade from Rolls-Royce set the engine up initially, and then I've carried on and through the trials and tribulations and rebuilds. But that's based on my previous experience, which was aircraft engineering and a piston engine experience. So, well, this standard of Daimler-Benz 605, 150 hours is the book figure. However, that obviously the engine has to come up to standard. It doesn't have to fail during that period to maintain airworthiness. So it's possible that engines will last shorter than that period, and we have had problems with the engine that have required us to strip it down quite deeply in a very short time. We're now looking at about, off the top of the head, 30 hours on the engine this last 2 years since the major rebuild, and it's performing well. But that's always a day-to-day thing with a big engine, a short life engine like this, that a problem could come up tomorrow which may see us stripping it down. So you can't really say with great honesty that it will last 150 hours. Not quite the same as a pre-flight check, but a security check to make sure that everything's fastened up properly for the ground run. Throttle and fuel cock are on the left hand side, and so on the first check we check that the covers on the priming pump, the friction's backed off on the throttles. We check the full and free movement of the throttle. The start cutoff is forward for run. Manual indicators for the undercarriage show down. The sand trap filter is open at the moment. Indicators for the undercarriage are there. The undercarriage selector buttons are both out in the guards. The start handle is here. The magnetos are off. The canopy jettison is safety wired. The spark plug cleaner ignition retarder is just set normal position. There's no power on the aeroplane. I won't be using the comms. These are the only non-standard parts, the standby compass and the radio. Instruments are all looking reasonable. John's flying the aeroplane later. Altimeter set to 0. Nothing's broken. Manifold pressure is just above 1 atmosphere. Propeller position is fully fine. Temperature gauge is here in good condition. Fuel gauges and oil and pressure gauges are looking okay. Okay, on the circuit breakers we have the normal selection of circuit breakers set just for ground running. And clear power.
Clear. That's the left of the battery.
Power selected on. You can check and that's the fuel pump electric, that's just checked. Fuel contents are full, obviously nothing on the pressure gauges. Temperature gauge is now live and reading ambient temperature. Back through, I'm going to leave the pitch in 1230, but it is select to manual and I just check it motor satisfactorily. Coming back across, I've got 2 greens indicated now. I'll open the fuel cock into the both position and I'll position the throttle in line with the red mark for the start position, which has to be carefully checked, quite sensitive. If you don't set it exactly right, then it's very reluctant to start. Next thing we'll be doing is winding up the inertia starter, and when the starter is at speed, we'll then prime with the priming pump in the cockpit, approximately half a dozen strokes, and then with the starter crew clear and the propeller clear, we'll put the mags live on the mag switch, we pull the ignition retarder, and at the same time then we pull the starter to engage the clutch and hold until the engine fires, and then it will run up to about 1000 RPM. If necessary, adjust the throttle. Immediately check oil pressure rises, and then you're looking for the temperatures and pressures as the engine warms up, remain at low speed, and that's it for a start.
control the lines? Or they like tie you off?
You know, you pump it when you
Suck it in.
Anyway, yeah.
It was good while it lasted.
2 minutes.
Right, we're going to have a look at that. We're going to have a look at that pipe.
You're not That's what happens when you let pilots near and near.
Could you ask Tim to come and have a chat with me? See how he's got on.
Light, Dave. Sometimes I think that on you where to heaven. Lying bastard. Never trust a pilot again. Still got a little bit of compression in it. Chocks down.
Rise. Presumably there won't be any chocks up there either.
We will. You won't have a big first time. We usually lose a minimum of 2 strips on the annual air test.
Uh-huh. Well, I lost 1 strip at Boscombe.
What? John's?
Yeah, with the soundtrack dubbed over the top. Have you not seen that? Oh, bloody perler. They've got the bit from the Battle of Britain film where the guy comes in as a really bouncy landing and something that's Michael Caine's in.
Sorry, you want to watch them go together, yeah?
Okay.
No, you want to watch them.
They go, woo. Their tongue comes out and go.
So I think the aeroplane deserves to fly due to its condition and its rarity combined. It's in good condition, and it would be nice to have a Mercedes-powered 109 because of the great history of that aircraft, airworthy, a real one. It'd be nice to see one always airworthy. And so while this is in good condition and properly maintained, I see no reason why it shouldn't fly, as long as it's operated correctly.
If there's a life in the engine, I mean, we're not going to risk it. We're not going to try and extend it beyond its safe life. We've put too much of our own time in it to let anything happen to it that's not within our control. And there's no guarantee of anything in a museum surviving. You only have to look at Canadian museum that burnt down, the French museum store that burnt down. There's no guarantee of life in a museum.